Hey dear, Simsy here, crawling out of my grave to talk about a Shakespeare retelling, which is Lady Macbeth by Ava Reid, and this was one of my most highly anticipated reads of the year. However, it turned out to be one of my biggest disappointments, and I have a lot of strong feelings about it. And full disclosure, I am a lit major. I grew up in theater. I was a high school thespian. So my attachment to the original play did create certain expectations when I was going into this book. But even if I completely divorce Lady Macbeth from the original and just treat it as its own separate entity, the narrative choices did not make sense to me. And I'll get into that. And I will be discussing both the original play and Lady Macbeth. However, I'm going to try and avoid major spoilers and plot twists for the novel. So within this version of Macbeth, Lady Macbeth is a 17-year-old French teenager who has this ability where she can compel men with her eyes, and so that's why she's always wearing a veil, and she's engaged to a Thane, Lord Macbeth, in a political marriage. However, when she gets there, he turns out to be absolutely terrible and abusive towards her, and he tells her to use her powers to murder his cousin, King Duncan. And I'm going to just kind of dissect how many things are off about this narrative. So right off the bat, one of the changes that bothers me in this novel is that Lady Macbeth is turned into an outsider. She is a French teenager who absolutely despises the Scottish. All throughout the narrative, she is calling them primitive and brutish and barbaric, and you think, okay, maybe this is a learning moment where she can gradually gain appreciation for Scottish culture throughout the story. But no, even towards the end, she's even complaining about the weather and calling the weather heathen weather. And this is such a odd artistic choice because basically what's going on is there's a Scottish civil war. There's discord between the clans, and how am I supposed to care about what's going on in the Scottish country if its characters are treated as subhuman? Like, I'm not invested in the story there. And another change in this novel that didn't work for me was that we are meeting at the beginning of their relationship in the novel where they just get married, while in the original, they are a middle-aged, established power couple with tons of history behind them. And Lord Macbeth calls Lady Macbeth his dearest partner of greatness. He respects her counsel. In fact, it's Lady Macbeth who is trying to manipulate Lord Macbeth and pulling the strings behind the scenes to convince Lord Macbeth to murder his cousin, King Duncan, in fact, to take his place. So this novel takes away all of Lady Macbeth's agency, and Lady Macbeth's personality in this novel is unrecognizable from the original play. In the original play, she's ruthless and conniving and saying, "Fill me from the tip top" with direst cruelty. And in this story, instead, she's blushing, she's timid, she doesn't want to use her powers. And I do feel like the concept of giving Lady Macbeth compulsive powers, I thought that was a cool idea. And I was even reading the author's notes, her annotations, where she said she was inspired by the Bene Gesserit and Jessica's character in Dune. And I wish Ava Reid had run with that and used Lady Jessica's personality and Lady Macbeth's original personality and given it to Rosil, the new Lady Macbeth, in her story. There's actually quite a bit of similarities between Lady Macbeth and and Lady Jessica. So Lady Jessica is pushing her son to fulfill a prophecy, and in Lady Macbeth the play, Lady Macbeth is pushing her husband to fulfill a prophecy, and they're both badass women. And we could have had an amazing novel if Rosil had a backbone. I wanted political intrigue, and in fact, if anyone does decide to write a sci-fi retelling, a space opera retelling of Macbeth, I will love them for all of time. Like my kingdom for a space opera Macbeth. Yeah, for me, this book was a bunch of wasted potential, and I feel like Lady Macbeth's character, as she was written by Ava Reid, her narrative of like trauma and stuff would have been better suited towards like a Bluebeard retelling, because Bluebeard was terrible to his wives. It doesn't make sense changing Macbeth to me into this abuse narrative, because you're completely destroying and undermining Lady Macbeth's agency. Yeah, I really wanted to love this one because it was Ava Reid's debut novel, The Wolf and the Woodsman. That was the book that pulled me out of like a year-long reading slump because I loved the characters. There's chemistry and tension between them, and also like between a paladin type character and a witch, and that worked for me. I cared for those characters, and I hope that next year for Ava Reid's next novel, which will be like a enemies to lovers sapphic dystopian story, I think it's called something like a Fable at the End of the World. I'm hoping that I will enjoy that one a lot more because, yeah, Lady Macbeth did not do it for me. But if you've read it, let me know your thoughts.